Welcome to HQ Midday. I'm Tommy Tran, flying solo this hour on a Monday. NFL Combine done and dusted as more than 300 prospects were invited to Indianapolis for the annual event. And every year we see some people who pop during the workouts and some fall short. For those looking to improve some of their measurables, many of them will look to add to their pro days. And it also looks like the trend continues with more of the elite prospects skipping workouts in Indy. Time now for an NFL Combine Stock Watch with Mike Renner and Emory Hunt, two of our talent evaluators who were in Indianapolis for us last week. Let's start with stock up offense. And Emory, I'm going to start with you because we were just talking off air about a North Dakota State guy and Cole Payton. A lot of buzz surrounding the quarterback, but you have the guy he was throwing it to that really stood out to you.
Yeah, Bryce Lance has been tremendous since stepping on the field at North Dakota State. And I know how a lot of people are now starting to get familiar with what he can do because of how well he tested out there, ran 4.3, jumped sky high like everybody else at the Combine. But this is something that's actually practical to what he was doing out there on the field. His speed showed up. You see his size at 6'3", 205, and people think he's just a big guy playing above the rim. Yeah, he can do that as well, but you also get the ball in his hands short, and he has that speed to take it the distance. He's someone that could be a catch-and-run guy in addition to being an above-the-rim guy. So I feel like he could win at all three levels. The testing combined with the film, this guy's stock is going to be on the rise.
I had Monroe Freeling, the Georgia offensive tackle, as my most impressive guy at the Combine because it's a crowded offensive tackle class. There are a lot of guys vying for simply OT1 in this class, and there's not a sure guy at the top who will be it. I think after this, Freeling would be my bet to be the first tackle off the board. He had the most impressive week, 4.9, 340, 33.5-inch vertical, 9.7 broad jump. And what he has that really not a lot of others guys have is left tackle traits. 6'7", 34 3/4-inch arms. He looks the part and has played left tackle. A lot of the other guys in this class have played on the right side. So if you want a left tackle, I think this might be the guy who ends up first off the board in this class.
I like that we're able to show some of those measurables all on that graphic there from what happened in Indianapolis last week. So in terms of stock down, Mike, you were very bullish here on Monroe Freeling. Who are you not so high on after what you saw in Indy?
Yeah, Emmett Johnson, the Nebraska running back, I'm a little worried about his draft stock given what he put up because he's undersized. We knew that coming in. 202 pounds is what he checked in at, kind of like bottom of the barrel in terms of starting NFL running backs. You got to hit that 200 mark, and he just did, but it's still small. But then he didn't test like a high-end athlete. Usually the guys who are around 200 pounds, like your James Cooks of the world, your Jahmyr Gibbses of the world, they run 4.3s. He ran a 4.56 40, only a 10-foot broad jump. Those are middling numbers for a guy who was known for his explosiveness. So it's still a weak running back class. He'll still be coveted in it, but I thought he had a chance to work himself into the RB2 conversation, and I think that dream is probably dead for Emmett Johnson.
I'm taking Miles Kitselman, the tight end from Tennessee, and I was a little bit disappointed in his 40-yard dash. I saw him at the American Bowl this past January, and he had one of the better weeks. He was also trying to transition to fullback, showing he was able to split time there in tight end. I thought he'd run in the 4.6s, but when you look at what he ran out there, a 4.9, that's just that. There's no way I can kind of spin that for how much I liked him going into the Combine. Obviously, he's going to have to run better at his pro day. I'm hoping we're hear something of like a Gunnar Helm situation where he had no feet and he went out there and ran a 40-yard dash because 4.9 is unacceptable, and I hope he's going to improve. I know he's going to improve that in his pro day, but just wasn't a good showing speed-wise up there for Kitselman.
So that's a look at stock watch for some offense. Let's go defense. And Mike, it's interesting in terms of Sonny Styles. We've seen sort of a high variance prospect. Some people say top 5, some said late first round. And again, this is sort of all out of perspective here. It seems like you're in that earlier stage of you like Sonny Styles out of Ohio State.
Yeah, I think after this weekend, he could very easily go into the top 5 picks of this draft because that's what a top 5 athlete looks like. 4.46 40, 43.5-inch vertical at 244 pounds. He reminds me of Tremaine Edmonds coming out just as an athlete in terms of everything about the linebacker position that you could want physically. He has it not just good at an elite level, but then when you compare his tape to Edmonds' tape in terms of how they play the position already, it's really not close. Styles is the much better football player already coming out. So because of all that, I think someone's just going to say, I have a special talent here on my hands. Yeah, it's a lesser value position, but he's so freakishly athletic that he could go above and beyond and be the best player at that position in the NFL. So would not surprise me if he sneaks in the top 5.
I like that pick, Mike, because we've seen now the final form. It started Deion Buchanan, then it went to Isaiah Simmons, Tremaine Edmonds, and now we've reached the final form right there in Sonny Styles of this new age linebacker that we like to see. I'm going to go on the other side of the ball, defense, obviously with a guy that has been building up good momentum this offseason into the combine. That's Mason Reiger of Wisconsin. You saw what he did at the East-West Shrine Bowl, 3 sacks in the ball game, defensive MVP. He goes out here, jumps 40 on the vertical, over 10 inches on the broad jump, and his 40-yard split, his 10-yard split was 1.61, which is one of the fastest times there. So when you think about that in terms of how big he is, 6'5", 251, with that type of twitch coming off the corner, building off a great all-star game circuit where he was the MVP of the East-West Shrine Bowl, on top of the fact that teams need the ability to get to the quarterback, this guy shows you athletically he can do it. He showed you practically he could do it in the game. And this is a type of momentum you want to build going into the offseason. It makes people go back and look at the tape, but now they see you progress forward. His stock is definitely going to be on the rise after this combine performance.
Mike, who's your stock down guy on defense?
I hate to kill this guy and say stock down because he really couldn't do anything about it, but it's Cassius Howell, the Texas A&M defensive end, because he'll have the shortest arms of any defensive end drafted in over 20 years. And this guy's getting talked about as a first rounder, right? His tape is that good, but traits still matter to the NFL. And when you have 30 and a quarter inch arms, which is over an inch shorter than the shortest arm starter in the entire NFL right now, you are such an outlier that I just don't know if teams are going to use a first-round pick on him. And then to add insult to that, his vertical jump and broad jump were both well below average. So to be undersized and to not come in as athletic as maybe some people thought, all a little bit worrisome. And again, probably slides out of the top 32 because of it.
And I hate this for TJ Hall, too, because you talk about a position at a program that we usually rubber stamp is sight unseen. Oh, Iowa corner, give me him 10 times out of 10. But when you run 4.59 amidst everyone in the world running 4.3 now, you're going to look extremely slow. Even though we know it's about technique, it's about closing speed, reaction speed, all of those technical things. But just from an optic standpoint, running 4.59 is not a good look. He's going to have to improve. And I know if you go through the history of those cornerbacks that ran within the 4.5 to 4.6 range, the long-term effects of those guys aren't as successful as those that run sub 4.5 and sub 4.3. So he has his work cut out for him. He's a good football player, and at the end of the day, we're still playing football, but, man, he can't be happy about that 4.59 he ran out there in Indy.
Appreciate you guys giving the notables. I do want to ask you guys sort of a macro question from the Combine before I let you go. And Emory, I'm going to give you first word. A few years ago, it was like Joe Burrow's hands. It seems like this year, maybe it's like lineman's arm's length. Was there a theme or something that stood out to you while you guys were out in Indy?
The collective age of everybody. Reuben Bain just obviously looks the part, right? He looks like how everybody's dad looked in the 80s. But he's only, 23, 24 years old? So I just felt like everybody looked older. And that's what we'll see now moving forward as everyone's staying longer in college football, but the collective age and the superior speed of everybody. I joked about this before. I said, man, I wonder what Red Grange would have thought about Barry Sanders had he seen him live and be like, wow, this guy would have played crazy in my era. Here I am, 20 years removed from college football, and everybody's running 4.3 and 4.2s. It's just blowing my mind how fast everybody is nowadays.
Well, I got a theory on that, Emory, actually. I think they're juicing the stopwatches. All these agents are pulling these guys out, right, making them not test at the Combine. They want people to come back. They can't risk all these players in Exodus not testing over the weekend. There's too much ad dollars here to sell while that Combine's going on. So I think they're juicing the stopwatch a little bit to get more interest, to get more guys to run.
I tell you what, if your best number comes from Indy, we might start seeing more guys participate, to your point, Mike. Certainly appreciate it. Renner and Hunt joining us here fresh off of their trip from Indianapolis. Catch Mike with JP Acosta from Pushing the Pile. They were doing shows live on CBS Sports Network. Catch him out in podcast form, YouTube form, all the good stuff. Scan that QR code, check him out.
Oh, the countdown continues. We are now just 53 days away from the NFL draft, and a huge part of the pre-draft process that is done. Of course, we're talking about the combine. Now, our Ryan Wilson was in Indy all last week. He was watching workouts, talking to players. He is now out with his first mock draft post-combine. So we've got a lot of movers in this one. Let's welcome in Ryan Wilson to break down some of the big ones. Ryan, you're starting off with a bang. You got the Bills moving up from 26 to 3 to grab Carnell Tate. Two things I love from your article. You said you don't care that he ran a slow 40 and that you did commit, I think, 1,800 words to why this should happen. So tell us about this move. It's nice to see you. Welcome back from Indy.
Hey, Amanda, good to see you. Thanks for doing the old word count check on that. That you know, I get paid by the word, so that's how I had to beef that thing up. Yeah, the funny thing is, right, that we saw Brandon Beane in the booth with NFL Network as we saw Carnell Tate running that 4.53-ish or whatever it ended up being, and he jokingly said, "Yeah, no way can you draft this guy." Oddly enough, Bills fans would probably burn down the town if they don't take a wide receiver. You won't believe this. Based on the internet reaction to this mock draft, Bills fans hate the idea of trading all the way up to 3 to get Josh Allen, that last piece of the puzzle. Look, it's going to cost you a ton, and there's no way around that. But if you go back to the 2011 draft, Thomas and Mitroff traded up from 27 to 6. There's the graphic. Shout out to the control room of what the Bills would give up in this mock draft. But when the Falcons did it, it was for Julio Jones. And at the time, it was for a ton of draft picks that went the Browns' way. We cannot remember the Browns players that came out of that draft. I can because I looked it up, but none of them were impactful. Julio Jones took that team and helped them get to the Super Bowl along with Matt Ryan 5 years later. They should have won it. We know about 28 to 3, but it wasn't from lack of aggressiveness from Thomas and Mitroff in that front office. And I think if the Bills want to get over the hump, because they haven't yet with Josh Allen, they need that wide receiver. And I feel like Carnell Tate would put him over the top. He is not Julio Jones, but he ain't a bad plan B for an already explosive offense with a new coach in Joe Brady.
All right, Bills social media or Bills media fans, whatever you are, let us know if you like this move, because Ryan loves to be chirped at on social media, especially by 12-year-olds on TikTok. So 12-year-olds, that's who I'm talking to here. Another move here, I got to know about Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles going from 20th to the Cowboys in your last mock draft. You've now moved him all the way up to 4th to the Titans. What did you see from him that you just like so much?
I'm laughing because my colleagues in Indianapolis last week were laughing at the notion that Sonny Styles could be there at 20. That mock draft, in my defense, was a while ago.
27 days ago, I counted. You're welcome.
What was it?
27 days.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to say 2 days. So that actually makes me feel a lot better. 27, I will absolutely take. But here's the thing. I didn't know this about Sonny until we talked to him on the set. He is as polished and as mature a person you'll meet of any age. And I talked to someone in the front office after speaking to Sonny, and they said, if we were starting a business tomorrow and I needed a CEO, that would be the first hire. And that's the sense you got talking to him. And that, put aside the fact of what he did here, and you see the measurements. He also ran a 4.46 as someone who was 6'5", 244. He moved from safety to off-ball linebacker. Some teams may try to work him out as an edge as well, but versatility is going to be the name of the game when you talk about him. Leadership is going to be the name of the game as well. And there's a chance, and a very real chance, that he is the first Ohio State player off the board, ahead of even Arvell Reese, who we spent months talking about as a potential number 2 pick. Sonny Styles could end up going before Arvell goes off the board, and both those guys are insanely talented and fantastic human beings.
Okay, let's go to another riser that you saw at the draft and now the draft and the combine and now moving up in your mock draft here. Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq, you moved him up 9 spots, now going 15th overall to the Bucs. And I was looking online, Josh Edwards says that he just delivered an all-time performance. Check out that article too if you want to. So what was this all-time performance that was just so impressive?
His vertical was 43.5 inches, I think. I don't mean to steal an inch from him there. He also ran into the 4.4s. And that just goes along with what you saw on tape, both in 2024 and 2025. I was talking to Rand Carthon about Sadiq at 15 to the Buccaneers, as you see here in my latest mock draft. And he thought that might be a little rich, not because Sadiq isn't a middle of the first round player, but just because the Bucs may have other needs. But we had a chance to talk to him. And again, these kids are so mature, and I shouldn't call them kids. These young men are so mature that it's hard to wrap your brain around as someone who at one time was 18 to 22. But the athleticism, the ability to block, he's an asset on special teams. All those things check boxes. And oh, by the way, he is the latest, greatest tight end out of the state of Idaho, Colston Loveland also was from Idaho. So Idaho is suddenly a tight end factory. Shout out to that state because we saw Sadiq and what he did at Oregon. He's going to be just as good, if not better, once he lands in the NFL. I
got to know, when you're like watching these guys on the field, like I would just feel so bad about myself, like so lazy, so slow.
I do. Brandon, this morning, Baylor mentioned that I'm a 4.6 guy, and I said to Brandon, if I ran a 4.6 right now in this body here, my legs would literally come off the rest of the frame here.
I would think that's
4.6.
very impressive. I would think that's incredible if you were able to pull that off. I can't run it all right now, Ryan. Okay, so here's the thing. We're going to go to last season in order to get to this draft. We saw the Jags trade with the Browns to move up to number 2 to take Travis Hunter. They got a lot of draft capital. In return for that, you have them taking a very talented wide receiver who, speaking of records, almost broke a couple at the Combine.
Yeah, Jordyn Tyson, right? So Arizona State's own. Shout out to Pete Prisco as the ASU alum. Here's the thing with Jordyn Tyson. On the field, when he is healthy, he is an absolute game changer, and he can do it any number of ways. He's big, strong, fast. He can make plays at all 3 levels. The issue for Jordyn, and not through any fault of his own, he's battled injuries. He's had knee injuries. He's had soft tissue injuries. So he's missed time over the last 3 seasons. And no matter how good you are, if you can't stay on the field, that's a concern. Now, if he were a clean bill of health and never missed a game, he would probably be wide receiver 1 for some people. He would be wide receiver 1A for me. At the end of the day, a top 10, top 12 worst case pick. But because of the injury concerns, the Browns sort of get a deal here, a bargain with a top 10 talent here at pick 24. So that's the only reason I have him slipping, if you want to call it that. I have long-term injury concerns based on history, but his tape is fantastic when he's been on the field for Arizona State.
All right, final one. A little slip for him, but you do have some people moving out of the first round. Now, your last mock draft was 27 days ago. You have 2 notable names, though, falling out of the first round. Who are they and why?
Give them to me because I don't have my rundown in front of me.
All right, let's see. Casey Concepcion and Brandon Cease.
Yeah, so again, through no fault of their own, what happens when you're talking about wide receivers? This class is pretty deep. Cornerbacks, this class is even deeper. And Brandon Cisse is a fantastic athlete. There are some concerns when talking to teams at the Combine just about the technical side of his game. Doesn't mean he can't get there. But recent history, after J.C. Horn, some of the South Carolina corners haven't been as polished when they arrived. Again, Brandon can certainly flip the script on that, and I think he's a top 40 pick all day long. And then you talk about Casey Concepcion. We talked to him at the Combine. He and Rand did a TikTok dance together for whatever that means. I don't know if that hurt his draft stock. I don't think it did. But he is absolutely electric. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. He has legit return ability. And you watch those Texas A&M games last season, and you can see how he took over that offense. It was just a matter of him getting pushed out because there were a run on offensive linemen at the bottom of this mock draft that I did here. And that's the only reason. I think he has a chance to be a top 32 player. He could go top 20 with the way he played the last few seasons, NC State in 2024 and then Texas A&M last year.
Ryan, I did notice that you made Rand a little softer because I could see him interviewing these players. He falls in love with them the same way you do. Did you notice that? Did you notice that at all?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And our buddy Pete Prisco was making fun of both of us. But that's okay. We need more love in the world, Amanda.
We do need more love, especially right now. Ryan Wilson, we appreciate it, the host of With the First Pick. Get the full Combine recap and then, of course, going through Ryan Wilson's latest mock draft on the podcast. Again, just 53 days away from the draft.